Xiaoman was reborn due to an unexpected incident at the Port of Liyue in Tiwa, where he awakened his divine eye. He was coincidentally found by the Wind True Lord of Liuyun and later entrusted to Gan Yu for custody. From then on, he became Gan Yu's personal disciple and was appointed as the next successor to the heavenly power star by Ningguang. Assisted Ying and Pai Meng multiple times in resolving the crisis of Tivat, and also dealt with the crisis of the Abyss cult multiple times. Will Xiaoman be selected by Tianli as the next deity? Chapter 1. Abandoned Babies in Mount Aozang. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Wow. Wow. Liuyun burrows from Fengjinjuan in the Tibetan mountains suddenly heard a burst of baby crying outside the mountains. He was curious and came to the Tibetan mountains. He saw that it was raining rainstorm at the moment. Liuyun burrows from Fengjinjuan noticed the baby in its swaddling clothes at a glance, and then flapped his wings and flew away. Liuyun borrowed the wind to spread his broad wings to shield the baby from the rain. When the baby saw the strange fairy in front of him, he burst into tears and smiled. Continuously reaching out to touch the wings of Liuyun borrowing the Wind True Lord. At this moment, Liuyun Jiefengjinjuan was attracted by the cute appearance of the baby and immediately looked around. After all, not everyone could easily come to this Aozang mountain, and he also carried a baby with him, which happened to be placed in front of him. This was indeed too strange. The next scene even more made Liuyun borrow the wind and see a strange sight that Jinjuan had never seen before. He saw a strong light blooming in his swaddling clothes, and in the next moment, a deep blue divine eye circling around the baby. Can one awaken the eye of God at such an age? Liuyun looked at what was happening in front of him with the help of the wind. He saw that the weather, which was originally stormy, became sunny at the moment when the eye of God appeared. The eye of God seemed to become much more stable, slowly landing on the baby's chest, while the baby also emitted joyful laughter. Today is Xiaoman, why not call it Xiaoman? After speaking, Liuyun borrowed the wind and brought the baby named Xiaoman back to the cave, while also contacting his disciple to discuss this matter. Liuyun Jiefengjinjuan carefully fed clear dew to Xiaoman. Xiaoman drank the dew and looked at Liuyun Jiefengjinjuan with a silly smile. Xiaoman, why are you laughing so happily? Master, I'm here. Did you say something important happened? Gan Yu, take a look at this. The appearance of Liuyun borrowing the wind to embrace the baby, which surprised Gan Yu greatly. Master, who is this child? I'm not sure either. It was only after hearing the crying that I realized what was even more magical was this. After speaking, Liuyun looked at the still shining divine eye on the baby's chest with the help of Fengjinjuan's gaze. Gan Yu approached and couldn't help but take a step back when he saw such a scene. This is the eye of God. How could it be? At such an age. If it's a fake exchange, Gan Yu, I'll name this child Xiaoman. Why don't you take him to Liyue port? It might be more suitable for this child's growth there. Ah. Master, are you serious? I don't know how to raise children. This child is different from you and Shenhe, and is not suitable for living in this mountain. Liyue is more suitable for him. As for how to raise a child, just ask those humans. Liyue's 7 stars will probably help you as well. The baby seemed to understand, his gaze fixed on Gan Yu's face, laughing uncontrollably. It seems that this child is destined for you, go ahead. The rest is up to you to decide. Master, but I. Be more confident, this child may not be ordinary. You are likely to cultivate an excellent disciple. Disciple. Does Master want me to take this child as his disciple? Can I? Of course, this child's appearance on Mount Aozang indicates that he is currently a Liyue person, and that he is the guardian of the emperor. You can do it well. Gan Yu carefully held Xiaoman in his arms, but Xiaoman still laughed heartily, waving his hands in the air, trying to touch the unicorn horn above Gan Yu's head. By the way, don't feed this child Qingxin, Liuyun instructed through Feng Jinju, and Gan Yu looked at the cute Xiaoman in front of her and chuckled foolishly, hee, okay. After bidding farewell to Lord Liuyun and borrowing the wind, Gan Yu took advantage of the fact that it was not yet night and returned to Liyue port with Xiaoman, heading directly to the place where Yuehai Pavilion usually works. It seemed like there was some movement, but Baiwen followed the sound and found that it was Gan Yu who was frantically organizing something. Miss Gan Yu, how did you come back? Didn't you have an urgent matter to go to Mount Aozang? Did that immortal come to you for something? Gan Yu was startled by the sudden question and hurriedly stood up, which also made Baiwen see Xiaoman, who was already asleep. As Baiwen was amazed, he unconsciously walked up to observe Xiaoman and then asked, "Whose child is this? He's so cute, eh? Is this the Eye of God?" Gan Yu then told Baiwen about the discovery of Xiaoman by Liuyun Jiefeng. As for the matter of the God's Eye, he couldn't explain it himself, so he didn't explain it too much. Baiwen looked at Gan Yu, who was still in a hurry, and comforted him softly, "Miss Gan Yu, don't worry, I'll help you." Before Gan Yu could speak, Baiwen left lightly, afraid of waking up Xiaoman. After a while, Baiwen brought some soft fabric and some coconut milk and gently placed them aside. Gan Yu looked gratefully at Baiwen and said, "Thank you, Baiwen. It's getting late, go back quickly. I'm here, and I'll handle the rest tomorrow." "Miss Gan Yu, are you really capable of taking care of the child alone? It's very difficult to take care of the child. How about I stay and accompany you? Don't worry, I can handle it well." Seeing Gan Yu's serious demeanor, Baiwen didn't say anything more. After leaving, Gan Yu remained steadfast by Xiaoman's side. That night, Xiaoman slept soundly, but on the contrary, the divine eye on his chest kept shining brightly. Is the water attribute divine eye more transparent than other divine eyes? Gan Yu muttered to herself while gently touching the divine eye. It's icy and cool, so comfortable. Gan Yu touched the divine eye on her waist again and whispered, "It feels different." Later, Gan Yu took out a strand of red rope from the side and began clumsily weaving Chinese knots. Although the progress was slow, Gan Yu, the immortal beast body, could not sleep. That night, while guarding Xiaoman, she was weaving Chinese knots, and time passed quickly. With the sound of Xiaoman, the sweet rain of the Chinese knot has also been completed. Gan Yu picked up the coconut milk prepared by Baiwen and fed it to Xiaoman bit by bit. Xiaoman drank it in large gulps, apparently sleeping well and having a good appetite. Subsequently, Gan Yu connected the woven Chinese knot with Xiaoman's divine eye and gently placed it on Xiaoman's chest. "This is even my first gift to you. Gan Yu, did you stay up all night again? Miss Keqing, you came so early." At a glance, Keqing saw the child in Gan Yu's arms and opened her mouth wide, unable to say a word for a long time. At this moment, Baiwen also arrived early and saw the scene before her. Just as she was about to explain to Keqing, she trembled and said, "Gan Yu, is this child you? You Hengxing, you made a mistake." Later, Gan Yu and Baiwen explained Xiaoman's origin together. Keqing cautiously stepped forward to check Xiaoman's condition. Although she was informed of the situation of the divine eye in advance, she was still shocked to see it with her own eyes. "Xiaoman, the name sounds very nice, and the eye of God is also too strange. Do you really think about raising this child?" Gan Yu said seriously, "Think about it, raise it up, and accept it as a disciple." Chapter 2. Prosperous Times and Peace. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Not long after, it was almost rumored that Gan Yu had adopted a human child in Liyue port. For a while, opinions were divided, with some saying that Gan Yu had a Qilin bloodline and was not suitable for raising human children, while others said that Gan Yu was busy with work and could not take care of children like normal people. In short, there was not a word that recognized Gan Yu's ability to do this well. Gan Yu was very concerned about this matter, and the 7 stars of Liyue were in charge of the entire Liyue. Naturally, this matter quickly spread to Ningguang's ears. Strangely, Ningguang didn't pay much attention to this matter. However, when the public criticized Gan Yu for this matter, Ningguang found Gan Yu. Ningguang, do you already know? Gan Yu seems a bit haggard at this moment. Gan Yu, you haven't rested for another night, have you? Is it all because of this little guy? Sighed Ningguang elegantly. After Ningguang finished speaking, she walked toward Xiaoman. The first thing she saw was the Chinese knot woven by Gan Yu and the shining divine eye. As Baiwen said, the child who was born to awaken the eye of God may achieve limitless success in the future. Gan Yu gently said, Ningguang, do you already have a solution? You don't have to worry, I will handle this matter. As for this child, please take good care of him. He is my illegitimate child. On that day, Tianquan Xing Ningguang publicly announced that Xiaoman was a descendant of Liyue, and it was Liyue Qixing's idea to entrust him to Gan Yu for upbringing. Sure enough, after Ningguang stepped forward, the storm gradually subsided. Gan Yu looked gratefully at Ningguang and said, Ningguang, thank you for lying for me. I saw Ningguang skillfully pick up the fan and elegantly say, how could that be a lie? In the territory of Liyue, whether it's immortals or humans, all of them are descendants of Liyue and belong to the protection range of the 7 stars of Liyue. Upon hearing Ningguang's words, Gan Yu immediately understood that Ningguang had already understood where Xiaoman came from. I couldn't help but sigh inwardly, truly worthy of being a contemporary heavenly power star. Gan Yu, as for how to teach this little guy, it's entirely up to you. Remember, don't give this little guy your pure heart. Gan Yu looked gratefully at Ningguang and nodded heavily in response, okay. Time flies, and in the blink of an eye, Xiaoman has grown into a big child, just like when he was a child, but has become lively and mischievous. Xiaoman, pay attention to the heat and don't burn. Don't worry, Master Mao. Xiaoman, who was about to reach the height of the stove, was wielding a spatula with all his strength. Xiaoman, run quickly, we're here to catch you. Upon hearing this, Xiaoman immediately put down his spatula and whispered, Sister Xiangling, help me take a look and come back soon. Xiangling took the spatula thrown by Xiaoman and smiled, saying, pay attention to safety. I saw Xiaoman casually wipe his dirty face twice before running out of the window of the Wanmin Hall. Baiwen shouted loudly from behind, Xiaoman. Stop. Xiaoman heard the shouting behind him and immediately ran towards the dock. Passengers jokingly said, Xiaoman, come on, let's see how long it takes to be caught today. Xiaoman was agile and said as he ran, hee, you can't catch me today. In no time, Xiaoman had already arrived at the shore, and Baiwen stood panting behind him, run, keep running, hurry back with me. I saw Xiaoman jump into the sea at this moment. The onlookers were all startled and jumped into the sea to salvage Xiaoman. Suddenly, a water column erupted from the seawater, and it was Xiaoman standing on top. Sister Baiwen, we won't be able to catch you this time. You go back to the Moon Sea Pavilion first, and I'll be back soon. Then, in front of everyone's eyes, Xiaoman unexpectedly sailed across the sea and escaped. At this moment, there were enthusiastic cheers coming from the shore. Miss Baiwen, can Xiaoman manipulate water elements so freely now? Baiwen also stared blankly at Xiaoman, who had gone far away and couldn't help but sigh lightly, this is also the first time I've seen him. People around me occasionally say, hee, the child has grown up and can't be taken back. Baiwen turned around and said angrily, you. Looking at the smiling faces of everyone, Baiwen didn't say much and had to silently return to the Moon Sea Pavilion. Xiaoman returned to the Wanmin Hall again, and as soon as he entered, he loudly said, I'm back again. Guoba leaned forward and was picked up by Xiaoman. How about Guoba? You haven't been caught this time, have you? Xiaoman put down his pot and took the spatula from Xiangling's hand again, doing what he had just finished. Xiaoman. Why are you so persistent in this prosperous era of peace? Xiangling approached and asked. Master hasn't rested for several days and hasn't watched how she eats. When she's hungry, she puts a handful of qingxin in her mouth. I almost ran out of what I picked last time, so I'm planning to use this prosperous and peaceful dish for Master to taste well. It's a good time to rest. Good child, your master must have been overjoyed after eating the dishes you made. As he spoke, Xiaoman swiftly served the dishes and placed them in front of Xiangling, asking, "How are you?" Xiangling's sister. Xiangling looked carefully and smelled it again, then smiled and said, "It's a success with all the colors, aromas, and flavors." Guoba also made a victory gesture at this moment. Xiaoman packed the prosperous and peaceful food he had made and hurriedly ran out of the Wanmin Hall, shouting as he ran, "Thank you, Sister Xiangling, Master Mao." Xiaoman quickly ran back to the Moon Sea Pavilion and without any hesitation, arrived at Ganyu's office. He calmed down and looked at the prosperous and peaceful words in his hand, silently reciting, "It's intact." Then he gently knocked on the door and heard the voice of Ganyu coming from inside, "Please come in." Xiaoman pushed the door open and walked lightly to Ganyu's side, then placed the prepared dishes in front of Ganyu. "Is this Xiaoman? I heard Baiwen went to see you again." "Yes, I told Sister Baiwen that she will come back soon." "Master, eat this quickly." Ganyu curiously opened the food box in front of her, and then caught her eye were exquisite dishes with faint patterns in the shape of a unicorn, and several decorative qingxin flower leaves next to them. Ganyu was mesmerized by the sight and didn't expect that the child in front of him, who was only tall with a desk, would prepare such a gift for him. Ganyu tasted it lightly, and her face became happy. Xiaoman looked at it with satisfaction. "How's it going?" "Master, is it delicious?" Ganyu hugged Xiaoman on her lap and said, "It's delicious. Xiaoman has worked hard. The fragrant and soft rice, combined with sweet ingredients, is really delicious. Have Xiaoman ever eaten it?" "Hee, not yet." Upon hearing this, Ganyu immediately picked up some and fed it to Xiaoman. "Xiaoman, you've come back." Baiwen was obviously too tired to catch his breath at this moment. Xiaoman jumped up to Baiwen and said, "Sister Baiwen, please taste it. This is something I made specifically for my master." Baiwen rolled his eyes and said, "You've said that, how do I feel like eating?" Ganyu chuckled and said, "It's okay, Baiwen. Xiaoman is joking with you." Chapter 3. Abduction of 7-7. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Sister Baiwen, thank you for your hard work. Leave your work today to me and I will help you finish it, you. I was afraid you might get lost, so I found you. Are you trying to sneak out again? Xiaoman shook his head and said, "Don't run around aimlessly this time. I've finished all the important tasks. Rest assured and entrust the work to me." Gan Yu whispered on the side, "It's possible. Xiaoman can handle some simple tasks." Baiwen looked at Xiaoman skeptically, "Really?" Xiaoman patted her chest and said, "No problem." Later, Baiwen handed a list of medicines to Xiaoman and said cautiously, "Take this to Bubulu. After taking the medicine, take it to Wangshu Inn. Remember to have Qianyan army escort you there, and don't go out alone." "Okay, no problem." "Master, should we go and see Lord Shi?" Gan Yu was suddenly stunned when she heard Xiaoman say this. She looked at Xiaoman curiously and asked, "Xiaoman, how did you know about Xiao?" Baiwen asked curiously, "Who is she?" Xiaoman pondered for a moment and said, "I have this name in my mind, and it's on the roof of Wangshu Inn. I've known my master for a while now. But I haven't told you about this before, have you heard what others said?" Gan Yu was even more puzzled. Xiaoman scratched his head and said, "Not really. It seems like this thing has been in my mind all along, just a feeling I've always known. I can't even say it." Gan Yu looked at Xiaoman and couldn't figure out what was going on. After all, for Liyue, these immortal things exist in legends. "Master, I'm leaving now. Remember to rest after you finish eating, and don't stay up late today. After speaking, Xiaoman ran out and set off towards Bubulu. Xiaoman arrived at Bubulu and saw a child who was about the same height as him carefully taking medicine. Xiaoman quietly ran behind the child and patted his shoulder. The little girl turned around and said expressionlessly, "Ah, Xiaoman. Why are you here? Are you sick? I'll go call Mr. Bai." Xiaoman quickly grabbed the little girl and said, "No, Chi-Chi. I'm here to help others take medicine. Look, this is the list." Chi-Chi took over the list, carefully examined it without saying a word, and turned his head to help Xiaoman obtain the medicinal herbs he needed first. "Chi-Chi, isn't that good? I can wait. You help others first, and I'll go queue up." "It's okay, I'm helping Mr. Bai dispense medicine." "Xiaoman is here, you can dispense medicine to him first." "Hee, thank you Chi-Chi. By the way, Chi-Chi, I'm going to Wangshu Inn. Would you like to come with me?" "Mr. Bai, can you take a break?" "I don't need to rest, I'm not tired, but I can't go to Wangshu Inn with Xiaoman." Xiaoman knew that Chi-Chi couldn't express any emotions, but for some reason, Xiaoman could clearly feel that Chi-Chi was feeling a bit disappointed at this moment. "Chi-Chi, wait for me." As he spoke, Xiaoman ran to the back of the pharmacy and whispered, "Mr. Bai. Chongsheng. Are you there?" Upon hearing the call for Bai Zhu, he walked out from the nearby medicine rack and saw that it was Xiaoman. He smiled and asked, "Why did Xiaoman come?" "I heard that Baiwen went to catch you today. How did you do? Did you get caught?" "Hee, not this time." "Not bad, I've grown up," Chongsheng said lightly on Xiaoman's arm. "Xiaoman, are you here for something? Are you sick? Where are you feeling unwell?" "No, Mr. Bai. I'm here to take a leave on behalf of Chi-Chi. I want to go to Wangshu Inn with Chi-Chi." Chongsheng asked curiously, "What are you doing at Wangshu Inn?" "It's Sister Baiwen's job. She's too tired, so I'll finish it for her today. She's going to Wangshu Inn to deliver medicine, and I feel like Chi-Chi also wants to go." Bai Zhu curiously said, "Are you sure? Can you feel Chi-Chi's thoughts?" Xiaoman nodded seriously and said, "Sure, Mr. Bai, don't worry, I will definitely protect Chi-Chi." Chongsheng came to Xiaoman's head and said, "Little brat, do you still want to protect Chi-Chi?" Xiaoman confidently said, "My strength may not be good enough, but my heart has arrived." Bai Zhu and Chongsheng were amused by Xiaoman's words and then said, "You and Chi should go, be careful on the way, and it's best to call the Qianyan army." "Okay, no problem, then let's go." Then Xiaoman ran out excitedly and said, "7 or 7, we can go now." Mr. Bai agreed. At this moment, Bai Zhu also walked out and Chi looked at Bai Zhu. "Mr. Bai, is it really true? Can I go?" "Go, 777, pay attention to safety and protect Xiaoman," Bai Zhu said softly. Chi Ben had an expressionless expression on his face as if there had been a slight change, but it was only for a moment and was not discovered by Bai Zhu. "Okay, I will definitely take care of Xiaoman. Xiaoman, this is your medicine." After taking the medicine, Xiaoman picked up Chi and left Bubulu. "Thank you, Xiaoman. I also want to go with you." Hee, I knew it." As they walked, they suddenly heard a burst of laughter coming from above. Xiaoman and Chi looked up and saw that it was the storyteller, Dr. Lu Su, and Mr. Lu, who were speaking. Xiaoman also saw a tall and tidy man in the crowd listening to books, dressed in noble and tidy clothes. Every word, action, and smile exuded an elegant and noble aura. "Chi, do you know who that person is?" Chi looked in the direction pointed by Xiaoman, pondered for a moment, and then said, "Mr. Zhongli, the deceased guest." "Chi, do you know what other identity Mr. Zhongli has?" "I don't know." "I tell you, don't tell anyone. You must keep it a secret." "Okay, keep it confidential. Yanwang Emperor, Morix, Xiaoman whispered in Chi-Chi's ear. Just finished speaking, but felt a pair of eyes staring at him. Xiaoman looked up and saw Zhongli staring at him. At this moment, Xiaoman seemed a bit at a loss and could only chuckle foolishly. Hello Mr. Zhongli. Xiaoman, do you want to come up and listen to a segment? No, I'm going to help Sister Baiwen. Maybe next time. Chi-Chi curiously asked. Xiaoman said Mr. Zhongli is the Rock Prince. Morix. Xiaoman made a hissing gesture and said, 7 or 7, keep your voice down and don't let anyone hear you. Then Xiaoman pulled Chi-Chi towards the direction of Wangshu Inn. 7, do you believe what I said about Mr. Zhongli? Believe it, believe everything Xiaoman says. Xiaoman won't deceive me, he knows everything. Xiaoman muttered to himself, yes, I'm also curious. This information seems to be imprinted on my mind. Xiaoman, Qianyan Army, I forgot. Xiaoman chuckled foolishly and said, hee, yes, but it's okay, there won't be any danger. Let's go, Wangshu Inn. Chi-Chi also followed Xiaoman and said, let's go, Wangshu Inn. Chapter 4. The Demon Subduing Saint arrives. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Xiaoman and Chi-Chi were walking on the way to Wangshu Inn. Chi-Chi was always attracted by the small sparrow on the roadside. Xiaoman tried to catch one and give it back to Chi-Chi, but was always stopped by Chi-Chi. Just look from a distance, the little bird is afraid of 7 or 7. Xiaoman felt a bit sad when he heard Chi-Chi say this, and then gently touched Chi-Chi's head and said, it's okay, Chi-Chi, they don't understand you. As Xiaoman walked, he asked Chi-Chi, Chi-Chi, do you know how to freely control the power of elements? I've been feeling like I've found some tricks lately, but I'm not quite sure. At this moment, Chi-Chi didn't know how to explain this matter. He stretched out 2 fingers and placed them on his chest, and the surroundings suddenly became cold. Xiaoman Yan looked at Chi-Chi as he was about to give himself a demonstration, and immediately stopped him and said, it's okay, there's no need to be so complicated. Immediately, Chi-Chi obediently withdrew his elemental power, and Xiaoman learned Chi-Chi's appearance and raised 2 fingers on his chest, but there was no change. Chi-Chi, what are you thinking when using elemental power? After a moment of contemplation, Chi-Chi said, It seems like he didn't think anything, and those elements came together. Chi-Chi, did you know that when I stepped on the seawater and got up, it felt too comfortable, as if I was flying, Xiaoman said to Chi-Chi as she danced and recounted the feeling of controlling the water element at Liyue port today. What was Xiaoman thinking at that time? A sudden sentence from Chi-Chi plunged Xiaoman into contemplation, and he kept asking himself, what were you thinking at that time? Did you run away? It's not like that. I don't usually have the same effect when I run away. Chi-Chi saw Xiaoman remain silent and then whispered, the eye of God is hope. 7 or 1 sentences made Xiaoman's mind skip a beat and he exclaimed excitedly, the prosperous world is peaceful. That's right, what I was thinking was the prosperous world is peaceful. What is a prosperous and peaceful era? Chi-Chi asked with confusion. It's a dish, it's the dish I'm going to cook for my master. I really want to understand. Chi-Chi watched Xiaoman's strange behavior without disturbing him. After all, in Chi-Chi's eyes, Xiaoman was very happy at this moment. I saw Xiaoman once again learning the style of Chi-Chi, raising his fingers and placing them on his chest. There seemed to be a breeze blowing around, but there was no trace of any water element. Isn't that right? Hand over what you have in your hands. Xiaoman was attracted by the sound behind him, and turned his head to see a group of treasure thieves. Xiaoman was dumbfounded at this moment, and didn't expect to forget to invite the Qianyan army to escort him. He actually encountered these difficult villains. Without hesitation, Xiaoman placed Chi-Chi behind him and loudly said, this is just medicine. What's the use of grabbing this? You still want to deceive us. It must be that Liyue's 7-star has some important information and is worried about leakage. They sent you 2 children to confuse the public in order to cover up. Xiaoman didn't even know how to refute the words spoken by the leader of the treasure-stealing group in front of him. His imagination was too broad. Don't be afraid, Xiaoman, leave it to me. Xiaoman still had no intention of giving in and reached out his hand, shouting loudly, "Do you dare to fight me 1.1.1? If I win, let's leave safely." The treasure-stealing group looked at the child in front of them with a bluff on their face and sneered, "What's the point of not daring to do this? What about your 3 moves?" Xiaoman shook his head and said, "There's no need for 3 moves, let's take 3 rounds. 3 rounds. What is it?" I saw Xiaoman take out a gorgeous card with the shape of Ganyu from his pocket and loudly say, "Summon the 7 saints." At the moment Xiaoman took out his card, the entire treasure-stealing group was dumbfounded. After hearing Xiaoman summon the 7 saints, they all clenched their weapons in their hands. "Little thing, dare you play with me?" After finishing speaking, he raised his hand and rushed towards Xiaoman. At this moment, Chi-Chi had already removed the imperial edict that bound him, and his body became lighter. He raised his sword to block Xiaoman's body, and with one strike, he repelled the opponent. Continuous circulation. At this moment, an ice elemental sphere appeared around Chi-Chi, assisting in attacking the enemy together. Xiaoman quickly put away his cards and stared intently at the battlefield where Chi-Chi was located. Chi-Chi, how amazing! At this moment, a member of the treasure-stealing group took advantage of Chi-Chi's lack of time and quietly circled behind Xiaoman. Xiaoman suddenly felt uneasy and fled to the side. Chi-Chi was about to come forward to rescue when he was stopped by the other treasure-stealing groups. Xiaoman saw that the treasure-stealing group was about to come in front of him. In a panic, he raised his arm to block it, only to see a water ball appearing in the air and throwing it directly at the treasure-stealing group. I saw the treasure-stealing group being hit directly by the water ball, soaking wet all over, but without any damage. "You're on the brink of death, you dare to play tricks on me." The elemental power controlled by Xiaoman in a state of urgency was unexpected. Upon regaining consciousness, Xiaoman seemed to feel a hint of water element condensation. I saw Xiaoman running away and gathering water balls, constantly obstructing the action of the treasure-stealing group. In an instant, all the treasure-stealing groups were already soaked all over with Xiaoman's water ball. Xiaoman shouted loudly, 7 or 7, freeze them. Chi-Chi understood and recited in his mouth, "Listen to the edict, announce this decree." Xiaoman saw that Chi-Chi seemed to be floating in mid-air at this moment, surrounded by many soulful breath constantly bursting out. With Chi-Chi's move, all the treasure-stealing groups present were frozen in place. Upon seeing this, Xiaoman pulled Chi-Chi and ran forward. He didn't know how far he had gone, but the thief group was nowhere to be seen behind him. Chi-Chi stopped and whispered, "Xiaoman, there is danger." Xiaoman looked ahead and saw a group of Qiuqiu people rushing towards him. "Don't be afraid, Xiaoman. I'll protect you." After speaking, Chi-Chi raised his sword again and stood in front of Xiaoman without any fear. At this moment, Xiaoman detested his own incompetence and was repeatedly guarded by Chi-Chi behind him. Chi-Chi seemed to sense Xiaoman's intentions and said softly, "Xiaoman is still young, feel free to leave it to me." I saw the Qiuqiu person running at the front with a giant axe, angrily charging towards Chi-Chi, swinging the axe and throwing it at Chi-Chi. Just as Xiaoman was worried, a ghostly figure suddenly appeared in the slightly dim night sky. When the figure appeared, it smashed straight to the ground, lifting dust and causing the Qiuqiu person holding a giant axe to fall. The dust dissipated, and a young man with short blue hair stood in front of Xiaoman and Chi-Chi. He was holding a long spear, with a fairy beast pattern on his right arm, and carried this mask around his waist. The mask looked extremely mysterious, as if it were a ghost. The man reached out and took off his mask, putting it on his face. He said in a deep voice, Jingyao Nua dance. Xiaoman murmured softly, Mandrill. Do Xiaoman know anyone? Very strong. Xiaoman whispered in Chi-Chi's ear, Chi-Chi, he is the demon subduing saint. Chapter 5. Accommodation at Wangshu Inn. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chi-Chi silently recited, the demon-conquering saint. Xiaoman whispered on the side, 7-7, don't you know the demon-slaying saint? The 3 eyes and 5 manifestations immortal. Chi-Chi shook his head slowly and said, I have a bad memory. Then Chi-Chi took out a notebook and began to write something on it. In an instant, all the people around the hills were annihilated by the mysterious man in front of them. Xiaoman was about to come forward and thank him for saving his life, but the man had already disappeared into the dim night. Xiaoman shouted loudly, demon-slaying saint. Thank you. At this moment, the man who was rescuing someone heard Xiaoman's call and instinctively turned back to look to himself, saying, at such an age, how could you recognize me? Xiaoman saw that Xiao Xiao had no intention of returning, and once again pulled Chi-Chi towards Wangshu Inn. 7-7, we're here. Did you see the bright spot ahead? That's it. I didn't expect it to be so late. Under the leadership of Xiaoman, Chi-Chi arrived at Wangshu Inn. Xiaoman immediately found the owner of Wangshu Inn, Phil Gadet. Boss, here's your medicine. Oh, it's Xiaoman. Shouldn't it be sent by Baiwen? Sister Baiwen, these past few days have been too hard, so I and Chi-Chi will come to deliver it. Is it just the 2 of you? This journey is too dangerous, why didn't you call the Qianyan army to escort you? Xiaoman touched the back of his head and said, haha, I forgot. Yan Xiao ran out and asked, did you encounter any danger along the way? Xiaoman Shen said mysteriously, I really met a group of fools and a group of people from the hills. With a tight smile, he said, so you guys weren't injured, were you? How did you get here? Phil Gadet also nervously walked out from behind the counter, carefully observing whether Xiaoman and Chi-Chi were injured. Don't worry, it's okay. I was saved by the Immortal. Xiaoman pointed to the rooftop while speaking. Yen smiled curiously and said, Immortal. Where did the Immortal come from? Xiaoman, have you seen the Immortal? Xiaoman smiled and said, hee, that's right, he was saved by a fairy. In fact, Mr. Yen Xiao, you must have seen him before. As soon as Xiaoman finished speaking, he saw a plate in the kitchen accidentally fall to the ground and break. The sound startled Yen and Xiao, and as he walked, he said, oh my, don't blame the Immortal, there is no taboo in children's words. Xiaoman seemed to notice something and walked up to the rooftop with Chi-Chi. Looking around, he didn't notice anything. Xiaoman. What's wrong? What have you found? Chi-Chi asked softly. Xiaoman touched the back of his head and said, maybe I was overthinking. Just as Xiaoman was about to turn around and leave, as soon as he turned around, he saw the young boy from before. Xiaoman exclaimed in surprise, you. Immortal. 7 or 7 expressionless faces looked up at a man named Xiao. Who are you? Why do you know me? I am Xiaoman, this is Chi-Chi. I don't know why I know the name of the demon-slaying saint, as if everything is in my mind. Just now, thank you very much for the demon-slaying saint's life-saving kindness. It's just a small gesture, why did you come to this Wangshu Inn late at night? I am a disciple of Gan Yu, the secretary of the Moon Sea Pavilion. Today, I am here to help my master and sister Baiwen deliver some things. Gan Yu. I didn't expect it. Gan Yu has already taken in his apprenticeship. Did Gan Yu tell you about me? Xiaoman waved his hand and said, no, the demon subduing saint still doesn't believe me. Indeed, very few people know about my existence nowadays, and it is even more impossible for a child of your age to know. Just relying on the memories that you say have always existed in your mind lacks credibility, said Xiao softly, but what I said is true, Xiaoman whispered, feeling a little lost. Xiaoman knows everything, Chi helped Xiaoman explain on the side. If the demon subduing saint still doesn't believe it, I have a way to prove it. What's the solution? I'll go make a dish for the demon subduing saint, and after watching it, you'll definitely believe me. Before Xiaoman could react, he came to Yan Xiao and said, Mr. Yan Xiao, can I make a dish? Yan Xiao believed that the kitchen was an extremely sacred place and would not easily allow others to enter it recklessly. However, seeing Xiaoman's serious expression, he temporarily gave the kitchen to him. Chi observed from the side, Xiaoman, what are you doing? Almond curd, the exclusive cuisine of the great sage of demon subduing. After hearing Xiaoman's name clearly on the rooftop, she couldn't help but be surprised. He never thought that a child of this age would know these things. After a while, Xiaoman came to the roof with the almond curd he had just made, and Mandrill had been waiting for a long time. Xiaoman puts almond curd in front of Mandrill, waiting for praise. I didn't expect you to even know this, such a strange child, said Xiao softly, please reply to this letter. Mandrill did not respond, but carefully tasted almond curd, ignoring Xiaoman. Xiao Shangxian, may I ask you a question? What is the problem? How can we better control the elemental forces? She slowly stood up and said, isn't Gan Yu your master? Didn't she teach you? I haven't been taught these yet. She carefully observed Xiaoman and said, it's amazing. You have divine eyes at a young age. Xiaoman proudly said, it's actually innate. She was once again shocked, his gaze fixed on the divine eye where the ends of Zhao's hair were tied together with a Chinese knot. Go learn from Gan Yu, I can't teach you. Xiaoman hesitated and said, is it because of karmic obstacles? She stopped and said in a deep voice, it's too late tonight. Let's go back tomorrow morning. After speaking, she disappeared into place. Xiaoman then asked the boss to help prepare 2 accommodations. Xiaoman, this child, has been liked since childhood, and the people at Wangshu Inn are no exception. 7 or 7, let's stay here today and leave tomorrow morning. Okay, listen to Xiaoman. Xiaoman slowly lay down, just as he was about to review the feeling of condensing water elements today, he only heard the sound of Chi coming from outside. 7234, 7234, 567, 567. Xiaoman gently pushed open the door, it turned out that she was doing soft gymnastics on July 7th. Xiaoman knew that Chi didn't want to be seen when doing soft gymnastics, so he gently closed the door and didn't disturb Chi. That night, Xiaoman slept very comfortably. He woke up early and went to the roof of Wangshu Inn again, breathing in fresh air. Soon, Chi also came to the roof and watched Xiaoman stand quietly on the side. Chi, you're here. Come and look south from here. Chi stepped on his feet and looked towards the direction pointed out by Xiaoman, whispering, That is the Lonely Cloud Pavilion. It is said that it was formed after the Rock King Emperor threw a long spear into the sea, as if it was used to suppress the demon god. Xiaoman knows a lot. Xiaoman's eyes were filled with envy at this moment, and he muttered to himself, when will I ever have such skills? Chapter 6. Beginner's Element Power. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Xiaoman was sighing from the bottom of his heart when a familiar voice came from behind him, you're so young, you even know this kind of thing. Xiaoman turned around and the speaker was none other than, it's also a memory that has been in my mind. It's the first time I've looked at it from this perspective, and it's just a bit emotional. Interesting child, hurry back, Gan Yu will be worried. Let's go, demon-slaying saint. I hope there will be a chance to repay your life-saving kindness in the future. She did not respond, still turning around and leaving with a hint of indifference. After bidding farewell to Filgodet, Huayan, Yan Xiao, and others, Xiaoman left with Chi and embarked on the journey back to Liyue port. As soon as he left, Xiaoman smiled mischievously and said, 7-7, it seems like Qingce Manor over there. I heard that the scenery there is also very beautiful. Are you interested in taking a look? Xiaoman can't go, he has to go back, and everyone will worry. Faced with the worries of Qiqi, Xiaoman had no choice but to abandon his plan. The journey was much smoother than yesterday, as there were no Qiuqiu people or treasure-stealing groups attacking. Soon, the two of them arrived at Liyue port. Xiaoman, it's not good. I have a bad feeling. Xiaoman looked at Qiqi with a slightly nervous expression, as if he could see some clues. He carefully leaned forward and saw a young girl in the middle looking around. Her flowing long hair danced in the wind, and there were 3 distinct plum blossoms on her hat. At first glance, Xiaoman saw clearly the identity of this person, who was Hu Tao, the 77th generation leader of the Shixing Hall, and also the current owner of Zhongli. Qiqi, don't worry, let's go through the back mountain. As long as we cross that small mountain, we won't be able to predict the outcome. But my body is stiff and I can't climb the mountain, said Qiqi. Somewhat. Xiaoman smiled and said, I'm here. I'll carry you over. You just need to hold on to me and leave the rest to me. Qiqi agreed to Xiaoman's proposal, and the two carefully circled to the southwest direction of Liyue port, reaching halfway up the mountain. Xiaoman slowly lowered his body, allowing Qiqi to hold on to himself and start the journey back home. Xiaoman was very careful, afraid of stepping on the ground, so the two of them fell off the mountain. As expected, they would come whatever they were afraid of. Due to his height, Xiaoman did not step on the landing point below and accidentally fell. Qiqi grabbed Xiaoman tightly and said, Xiaoman, hold on to me. Xiaoman felt that the sky had darkened in an instant, and his arms seemed to be grabbed by something sharp. He reluctantly opened his eyes and looked up, revealing a large white bird. In the blink of an eye, Xiaoman and Qiqi were saved by the big bird. Xiaoman was preparing to thank them when the big bird flapped its wings and flew away, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Xiaoman apologized and said, it was so dangerous just now. I apologize for making you scared. Qiqi shook his head and said, I'm not afraid. Xiaoman is lucky. In the Moon Sea Pavilion, Gan Yu seemed to sense something and muttered to himself, Master is here. Gan Yu then shook his head and said, it seems like I'm too tired. I've had an illusion. Shouldn't Xiaoman come back too? Gan Yu pushed open the door and walked outside, lazily stretching his waist towards the clear sky. In the distance, he saw a figure rushing towards him at full speed. Gan Yu smiled and said, why did you only come back now? I heard you took Qiqi with you. Master, I'm back. Hehe, did Mr. Bai tell you? Qianyan Jun saw you leaving with Qiqi and reported to Keqing. Xiaoman panicked and said, Teacher Keqing already knows. So should I go see her? Go and take a look. Okay, Master, then I'll go. Xiaoman hurried towards the office location of Keqing. Teacher Keqing, I'm Xiaoman. I'm back. The voice of Keqing came from inside the house, come in. After Xiaoman pushed the door and entered, before she could speak, Keqing said with a serious expression, why didn't the Qianyan army escort you yesterday? Xiaoman said with a serious attitude and full of apologies, Teacher, I'm really sorry. It was my negligence, I forgot. Did you encounter danger last night? Said Keqing with a serious face. At this moment, Xiaoman dared not deceive anyone and said honestly, yes, but everything has been resolved smoothly without any injuries. The medicine has also been handed over to Wangshu Inn without any losses. Keqing saw Xiaoman so sincere and then whispered, let's not do it again. Yes, but teacher, how did you know about last night's incident? You still have traces of elemental fluctuations on your body. Go find Gan Yu, it's time to enter the stage of elemental learning. Upon hearing this, Xiaoman became excited and quickly said, okay, I'll go right away. Xiaoman ran out of the door like a gust of wind and returned to Gan Yu's position. At this moment, Gan Yu surprisingly stood and fell asleep. Xiaoman looked in his eyes and couldn't help but feel a little heartbroken. However, with Xiaoman's current physique, he couldn't hold Gan Yu back to rest and could only wait on the side. This scene is also seen by others as a warm scene. Just as Baiwen was about to awaken Gan Yu, Xiaoman stopped her and pulled her aside, whispering, "Baiwen's sister, don't wake up master for now." She finally rested for a while. After waking up, she definitely won't go to rest honestly. It's better to just sleep like this for a while. After hearing it, Baiwen felt that what Xiaoman said made sense, so he didn't bother anymore. I never expected that Gan Yu would fall asleep at night. When Gan Yu opened his eyes again, he saw Xiaoman sitting beside him. He hurriedly asked, "Xiaoman, have I been sleeping like this all this time? Why didn't you wake me up?" Xiaoman smiled and said, "After waking up, master will have to stay up late to work again. Why don't we just rest like this? It's also quite good. You child, really. By the way, master, teacher Keqing asked me to come to you and say that I can start learning elemental power." Gan Yu smiled and looked at Xiaoman with satisfaction, saying, "Let's go now." Gan Yu brought Xiaoman to the open area of the back mountain, took out his bow and arrow, and set off a demonstration to Xiaoman. "Master, don't you need to teach me some basic knowledge first?" Gan Yu smiled and shook his head, saying, "You were born to awaken the eye of God. Yesterday, you used the power of water elements one after another. It is even more important to be familiar with and master this feeling. But the situation was urgent at the time, so I used it recklessly. What if it doesn't work now?" I saw Gan Yu's hands folded together, and the elemental force slowly condensed. A constantly rotating ice element sphere with patterns appeared in her palm. At this moment, Gan Yu was exceptionally elegant in Xiaoman's eyes, and Xiaoman stared blankly without blinking. Gan Yu said softly, "Don't think too much, your heart has no distractions." Xiaoman learned from Gan Yu's appearance and folded his hands together, only to see an irregular water ball slowly forming. Compared to Gan Yu, Xiaoman's water ball appeared extremely unstable. Sure enough, in an instant, the water ball shattered and scattered, splashing the water on Xiaoman and Gan Yu's faces. Gan Yu wiped his cheeks and said softly, "It's good to find this feeling. It's not necessary to learn the same movements. It's good to follow the way you are used to." Xiaoman held his breath, cleared his mind, and in the next moment, he made a movement that shocked Gan Yu extremely. He saw Xiaoman learning how to pull a bow from Gan Yu, and the water element kept converging. Surprisingly, a bow formed by the water element was actually transformed in Xiaoman's hand. Xiaoman was overjoyed, followed by scattered water droplets on the ground. Chapter 7. Natural and Extraordinary Abilities. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Gan Yu looked at the water elements scattered on the ground and recalled Xiaoman's previous actions. She was shocked in her heart. She did not expect Xiaoman to condense a weapon through the water element. After all, this is not in line with common sense. "Xiaoman, wait for me here." Xiaoman looked at Gan Yu hurriedly walking away, and in no time, he held a brand new bow in his hand and immediately handed it over to Xiaoman. "Try again." Xiaoman took the bow and arrow, aiming towards the sea surface of Liyue port. He easily pulled the bowstring and instantly drew a simple water element arrow feather. Gan Yu was extremely excited in her heart, and what she didn't expect was that Xiaoman had such a talent in condensing elemental power. Gan Yu watched quietly without disturbing Xiaoman. With a whoosh, Xiaoman released his bowstring, and the water element arrow feather shot towards the sea at an extremely fast speed. "Well done, Xiaoman. How do you feel now?" "There's no special feeling either, it feels like you can proficiently grasp the moment of element formation." After speaking, Xiaoman pulled the bowstring again, and this time the speed of water element formation became more proficient, and the process became smoother. It is no longer as simple as before. Frostwaya. Gan Yu was once again shocked, and Xiaoman imitated his own appearance and shot an arrow feather, learning to be quite impressive. I saw the frost blossom arrow shot out by Xiaoman, but after sinking into the seawater, it actually shot out tiny water droplets again around. Hee, how is master? Gan Yu looked at Xiaoman in front of her, unsure of what to say. Surprisingly, Xiaoman learned how to use elemental power in a very short time, and even imitated himself to learn Frost Blossom Arrow. Although the elemental content was far from enough, having such talent was enough for Gan Yu to be proud of. I had originally planned to practice all night, but I didn't expect Xiaoman to learn it in just a short amount of time. Gan Yu could only smile and say, "That's all for today." Learning perceptual elemental power requires continuous practice. Okay, master, take your time. You must rest today. After Gan Yu left, Xiaoman stayed alone in the back mountain to continue practicing. This scene was clearly seen by Zhongli in the distance, but Zhongli had no intention of coming forward to guide him. He just smiled and looked at Xiaoman's training position, nodding occasionally, in response to Xiaoman's cultivation. In the morning, at the Moon Sea Pavilion, Xiaoman returned from the back mountain and fell asleep in Gan Yu's office. Due to the extensive use of elemental power, Xiaoman was very tired that night. It was not until Gan Yu arrived at the Moon Sea Pavilion in the morning that he woke up Xiaoman. Xiaoman. Got up. Why are you sleeping here? Xiaoman was awakened by a familiar voice. He opened his hazy eyes and Gan Yu's face appeared in front of him. Xiaoman excitedly said, "Master, come quickly. There's something I want to show you." Before Gan Yu could respond, Xiaoman hurriedly ran outside with Gan Yu and arrived at the Moon Sea Pavilion Square. Xiaoman placed Gan Yu aside and said, "Master, please take a closer look." I saw Xiaoman holding his hands loosely in front of his chest and murmuring softly, "Frost and cold have transformed into life." A flower composed of water elements appeared on Xiaoman's chest. Gan Yu looked at Xiaoman in surprise, but he didn't expect Xiaoman to learn his moves in just one night. "When did you learn this, Xiaoman?" said Kuqing, who happened to be rushed to see this scene and was also stunned as she looked at Xiaoman. Xiaoman retrieved the water element and said, "I learned it last night." Gan Yu has become a good disciple. Although ice elements and water elements are similar, such imitation should not be easy, right? It's not just simple, this child has a very high level of intelligence. A slightly majestic female voice came from behind Xiaoman. "Miss Ningguang, you're here." Gan Yu, Kuqing, hello. I didn't expect Xiaoman to already have such elemental perception, it's really rare. Xiaoman said awkwardly, "Hee, it's better for master to teach." Xiaoman, can this imitation ability be achieved by any element attribute? Ningguang asked curiously. I don't know, I just thought of my master's moves first before trying to imitate them. Xiaoman suddenly remembered the heroic demeanor of Qi during the battle when he went to Wangshu in the other day. Then, learning from his memory, he raised his 2 fingers and whispered to his chest, "The flow never stops." In the next moment, everyone present was amazed, and Xiaoman did indeed see an elemental sphere like Qi, occasionally circling around him. Gan Yu took a step forward and was pleasantly surprised, saying, "Xiaoman, you can really use water elements to imitate other people's moves." Ningguang frowned slightly and said, "It's a pity that only the shape looks similar." Gan Yu was puzzled and said, "What shape is similar?" "This should be Qi's move. Qi's move is used to protect teammates and restore injuries, but Xiaoman's current use is very obvious and does not have this effect." Kuqing was also very curious, "Yes, why is this?" Ningguang shook her head and said, "Perhaps it's related to her own experience or some other reason, but it's great to be able to do this. Xiaoman may become Liyue's secret weapon in the future." Hee, I'm a secret weapon. Kuqing sternly said, "Then you can't be lazy either. You still need to practice diligently." After that, Xiaoman did not slack off and kept studying elemental strength, as well as honing his skills. Whenever he had time, he would go to different teachers to learn. Time flies, and the little boy who used to be here has now grown up and can take on some of the responsibilities of the 7 stars of the moon. Xiaoman, why are you taking the time to drink tea here today amidst your busy schedule? The work has all ended. Master Mao warmly greeted. Not yet, taking occasional breaks is beneficial for both physical and mental health. At this moment, Xiaoman's gaze gazed into the distance, with a hint of fortitude in his eyes. The divine eye was still tied to the Chinese knot sent by Gan Yu behind his hair, making it easy to distinguish at a glance. After finishing his tea, Xiaoman returned to the Moon Sea Pavilion and said to Gan Yu, Master, have you heard? A honorary knight has emerged from Mon's side. It seems that intelligence has come that there is such an adventurer who has helped Mon solve a great crisis. Xiaoman excitedly said, Master, did you know that I heard that the deity of Mon was taken away from his heart by the execution officers of the Fools of the Winter? Gan Yu was slightly surprised and said, Where did you hear all this from? Don't spread it if you're not sure. Master, I believe the organization of the Winter Country Executive Officer has already existed. We have to be cautious, perhaps there are executives in Liyue port. Gan Yu chuckled lightly and said, At such a young age, why are you having such wild thoughts? Tell me, who do you suspect is the fool's executor? Xiaoman pondered for a moment and said, Code name, young master, Dadaria. Gan Yu saw Xiaoman speaking so seriously and asked, Who is that? Xiaoman said in a deep voice, It's a name from my memory. Tell me he's one of the foolish executives. Chapter 8. Honorary Knights and Parmons. You are listening at novelfull.audio. On this day, Liyue welcomed 2 mysterious guests, who were the great hero, Honorary Knight, Ying, and her mysterious partner Pai Meng who fought against the Wind Demon Dragon in Mond. This news did not cause much controversy for the people of Liyue, but rather, Liyue's 7 stars took this matter even more seriously. Xiaoman came to the market early in the morning to watch the excitement, wondering if there was a chance to meet the legendary Honor Knight. At the same time, this is also a traditional festival of the Liyue Festival. It is also a busy time for Hu Tao, the head of the Rebirth Hall, to invite the Immortal ceremony. Hu Tao kept shuttling through the crowd, his face solemn. Xiaoman was well aware that although Hu Tao had many devilish ideas on weekdays, even far surpassing himself, whenever he invited Xianjiani, Hu Tao would always give it his all and take it seriously. Xiaoman didn't want to disturb Hu Tao when he saw the situation, so he decided to go out of the city for a stroll. Xiaoman walked forward all the way and unknowingly arrived at Liuyun. At this time, Xiaoman was different from the reckless little boy in the past. After a shallow understanding of the language of the Qiuqiu people, he did not blindly fight when facing them, and more often chose to get along friendly. Xiaoman wandered back and forth in the mountains amidst the vast clouds, as if searching for something. When he was hungry, he casually picked up a qingxin and put it in his mouth. It was a bit bitter, but for Xiaoman, being free here was very satisfying. Just as Xiaoman was chewing his heart in pain, he suddenly heard a sound of fighting coming from the valley directly below. Xiaoman struggled to swallow his pure heart and leaped down towards the valley. The sound of the fight was getting closer and closer, and Xiaoman squinted his eyes to see clearly that it was a yellow-haired woman who was blocked by several treasure-stealing groups. Xiaoman placed his hands on his chest and shouted in the sky, a microcosm of the wind and snow. The 2 sides, who were engaged in a fight, suddenly heard a sound and looked up together. They only saw a young man rapidly falling from the air, accompanied by a huge water element ball. Water element arrow feathers continuously produced from the water element ball, shooting towards the treasure-stealing group with extremely accurate accuracy. In an instant, dozens of treasure-stealing groups were completely wiped out by Xiaoman. Xiaoman deftly landed on the ground and looked around at the treasure-stealing group, saying, We're too lazy to talk about you. Let's wait for the Qianyan army to take you away. Xiaoman skillfully tied up the members of the treasure-stealing group, then stood up and looked at the yellow-haired woman. You're not injured, are you? How could you, a girl, come to this vast cloud alone. Hello, hello. Who said she's alone now, and there's also me? Xiaoman heard the sound coming from above and looked up to see a white-haired girl floating in mid-air. I'll go. Why are you floating in the air? Are you a demon? I'm not like a monster anymore. I really am, but to thank you for your help just now, thank you anyway. Xiaoman cautiously responded, you're welcome. It's just a small gesture. I am Pai Meng, and this is the traveler, Ying. Ying. Honorary Knight. Xiaoman exclaimed in surprise. Pai Meng spun around Xiaoman in the air and said, oh, you actually know us. Hee, it seems that our fame has already spread to Liyue. Xiaoman continued to ask, what are you doing here in the vast clouds? Ying awkwardly smiled and said, actually, we wanted to go to Liyue Port, but it seems like we got lost, that's all. But Liyue Port is not in this location. Its name is also adjacent to the port, facing the sea. It's all mountains here. It's ridiculous for you to get lost. Ying looked at Xiaoman and awkwardly smiled, is that right? Would it be convenient for you to take us over? Of course, come with me. Do you have anything to do with your visit to Liyue this time? She came to find her brother's whereabouts, and I came to taste the delicious food of Liyue. I'm good at food. Liyue has a Wanmentang restaurant and I won't regret it if I go there. If there's a chance, I'll personally cook it for you to taste. I learned cooking skills at Wanmentang when I was a child. Pai Meng excitedly said, okay. Ying spoke up and asked, I don't know your name yet. My name is Xiaoman, from Liyue. You can ask me anything you don't know. Really? Xiaoman. Ying said with a hint of excitement. Of course it's true, I know most of the things about Liyue, even including the demon god war thousands of years ago. Xiaoman, do you know where to find the rock god, Morex? Xiaoman stopped and turned to look at Ying, what are you looking for the rock prince for? Pai Meng said first, there should be two things to consider. The first is to ask Yan Xinji if he knows about her brother's whereabouts, and the second is that the singing god's heart has been taken away. We need to remind Yan Xinji to be careful. Xiaoman curiously said, singers. God's heart. Wind god Babados. That's right, also known as Wendy. The rumor is true, the heart of the wind god has really been taken away. Is the other party so powerful? Can they match the strength of the gods? Ying said awkwardly, It's probably an exaggeration to say that he's on par with the gods. It's also possible that the wind god hasn't managed Mond for many years, which has led to the inability to accumulate divine power over the years, so naturally he can't keep his divine heart. Well, let's hurry back to Liyue Port and explain this matter to Liyue 7 stars so that we can make some preparations. Xiaoman, you haven't said where to find the rock god yet. Now is the time for Liyue's invitation to the Immortal Classic ceremony. Normally, it should be visible, but this time, it may be a bit different. Why do you say that? I'm not quite sure, but I have this feeling. I don't think the invitation to the Immortal Classic ceremony will go smoothly this time, but rest assured that I will help you find the Rock Prince. Pai Mengfei approached Xiaoman and said, thank you so much, Xiaoman. I didn't expect us to meet kind-hearted people when we first arrived at Liyue. Yes, thank you so much, Xiaoman. Don't be polite, after all, this matter is also related to Liyue's safety. Xiaoman, do you have any responsibilities? It seems like you're in charge of some major affairs at Liyue Port. That's right, Xiaoman, does Liyue also have organizations like the Knight's Order? Xiaoman shook his head and said, there is no such organization as the Knights in Liyue Port, but there are Liyue 7 stars and the Qianyan army guarding Liyue. Pai Meng whispered, it sounds very impressive. Xiaoman successfully brought Ying and Pai Meng to Liyue Port and headed to Yuhading again. Master, I have seen that honorary knight. They still have important intelligence. Then Gan Yu and Xiaoman came out together to welcome Ying and Pai Meng. Wow, look, that girl has horns on her head. Gan Yu felt a bit shy when he saw Pai Meng staring at his Qilin horn. Xiaoman immediately approached Gan Yu and said, "This is my master Gan Yu, the secretary of the Moon Sea Pavilion, and also a fairy beast. Please don't keep staring like this." "Xiaoman, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. It's our first time seeing each other." "Fairy beast, how amazing." Ying walked up and said, "Sorry Xiaoman, we didn't mean to." Gan Yu stepped forward and said, "Xiaoman is fine. Both of you, please come with me." Chapter 9. Preparation Ceremony. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. I have already heard Xiaoman about the purpose of both of you coming this time, but I didn't expect Lord Fengshen to actually have such an experience. Yeah, the singer was knocked down by the lady with a snap. "Madam?" Gan Yu asked in confusion. "He is the executor of the Fools of the Winter Kingdom, and the Emperor of Rock needs to make plans early. I heard that travelers from other countries have come to visit." Xiaoman looked towards the direction of the sound, and it was the heavenly power star Ningguang, Lord of the Seven Stars of the Glass Moon. Miss Ningguang, it was Xiaoman who coincidentally met in the vast clouds. Later, Ying and Pai Meng told Ningguang about the matter, which inevitably aroused some suspicion from Ningguang. "Xiaoman, since you brought back the two foreign guests, what do you think of this matter?" Ningguang asked softly. "Lord Ningguang, I think we should pay more attention to this matter. As for inviting Xiandiani, the Immortal Classic ceremony is traditional and cannot be changed. Xiaoman will arrange for the two of you to stay temporarily, and we will discuss the rest later." After speaking, Ningguang left without looking back. Why does this condensation light care so little about this matter? "What we're saying is true," Parmons said with a resentful expression on his face. Xiaoman didn't say much at the moment, but later led Ying and Pai Meng to the residence. "Let's rest here for now. I will inform you if there is any news," he said. After arranging everything, Xiaoman got up and left. As soon as he left, he saw Zhongli strolling in the market. Xiaoman approached and warmly greeted, "Mr. Zhongli, have you heard? Mon's honor knight has arrived at Liyue, and I have just met him." Zhongli smiled elegantly and said, "Oh, this way, is there any interesting news?" "Yes, Mon's divine heart has been snatched away by the execution officers of the Fools of the Winter Kingdom." Zhongli still smiled and said, "Did Liyue Qixing not ask you to keep such an important matter confidential?" Xiaoman's recent actions did indeed have the intention of probing Zhongli, but he did not expect Zhongli to easily resolve the situation by breaking down his moves. Xiaoman awkwardly said, "I forgot. Mr. Zhongli must keep it a secret. That's nature." "But isn't Mr. Zhongli at all curious about this matter?" "That's not the case. I heard that the wind god of Mond has always been free and unrestrained, never managing Mond. Therefore, Mond is also known as a free city-state, which naturally results in the deity being unable to protect their own divine heart. Mr. Zhongli has seen through it so thoroughly. Do you think Prince Yan would also have such an experience?" When Xiaoman said these words, his eyes were fixed on Zhongli. Zhongli still responded calmly, "If Emperor Yan had made any contract with Empress Jidong, it would definitely be fulfilled. After all, Emperor Yan is also the god of contracts." "Mr. Zhongli, what you said is equivalent to not saying anything. Xiaoman, if you have anything you want to ask, feel free to say it directly." Xiaoman became a bit nervous when he heard Zhongli say this, and then shook his head and said, "No, I don't. I know Mr. Zhongli has a wide range of knowledge, so I wanted to ask." "Oh. Do you know the answer?" "Hehe, not yet, but I believe the truth will soon surface." "Xiaoman, Senior Gan Yu is looking for you. Come with me now." Xiaoman followed the sound and saw by one, then bid farewell to Zhongli and returned to the Moon Sea Pavilion. Zhongli picked up his teacup and took a light sip, saying, interesting child. Boss, the account is recorded in the funeral hall. Xiaoman returned to the Moon Sea Pavilion and saw that Gan Yu was always busy. Xiaoman, the task assigned by Miss Ningguang is for you and Qianyan Jun to be responsible for the safety during the period of inviting the Immortal Classic instrument. You can't be too playful. Okay, I'll go right away. Xiaoman led a group of Qianyan army and asked Xianjiani to carefully inspect the scene, but no abnormalities were found. Xiaoman. Why are you here? Hello, Master Hu. It's my job to ensure the safety of the Immortal Classic instrument this time. I've grown up and can handle such big things now, so I'll leave this to you. Hu Tao, wait a moment. Do you think there might be any unexpected events when inviting Xianjiani this time? With the presence of our sect leader, how could there be an accident? I don't allow anyone to cause trouble in situations like inviting the Immortal Classic ceremony. This is a very serious matter. Xiaoman quickly waved his hand and explained, you misunderstood my meaning, but I always feel that this time inviting the Immortal Classic ceremony is different from before, and I can't explain the specifics very clearly. Don't worry, everything belongs to our sect leader. On this day, Ying and Pai Meng proactively approached Xiaoman to inquire about some preparation matters for inviting the Immortal Classic instrument. Xiaoman, we've also come to help. Do Xiaoman need any help from us? The matter of inviting the Immortal Classic ceremony will be organized by Liyue Qixing. You can go and see the ceremony then, but don't have too much hope. Why do you say that? Xiaoman, is there anything else that hasn't been resolved? The traveler and I can help, you're welcome. Xiaoman pondered for a moment and said, no, it's just my own imagination. I always feel that something unusual will happen when I invite the Immortal Classic instrument, but there is no reasonable basis. I always feel a hint of unease. After all, inviting the Immortal Classic instrument is a very important day for Liyue, and the people of Liyue are also looking forward to this day. Wow, does Xiaoman have the ability to predict? Surprisingly, he has such concerns. Xiaoman awkwardly smiled and said, of course not, it's just that images occasionally pop up in his mind. Is it a picture of the future? Is Xiaoman also like a traveler? Coming from outside to the Tivat continent. Ying and Pai Meng were both curious about Xiaoman at this moment, as if they had met a companion who had encountered the same situation. I don't know about this anymore, maybe it is, maybe it's not, but at this moment I am the daughter of Liyue. Hehe, you're right. We will also help Xiaoman investigate this matter in our future travels. Thank you very much. If you encounter Mr. Zhongli, you can ask him your questions. Okay, remember, Zhongli, right. Thank you very much. Xiaoman still remembers our things. After Xiaoman, Ying, and Pai Meng parted ways, they stood in the distance again to observe the situation of inviting Xianjiani. At this moment, Zhongli happened to find Xiaoman. Xiaoman, why did you frown? What happened? Hello Mr. Zhongli, I always feel something is wrong. Did you overthink it? Did you notice something was wrong? Xiaoman shook his head and said, I didn't notice anything, but I just have this feeling. Then Xiaoman came to Zhongli's ear and whispered, Mr. Zhongli, do you think there are foolish executives infiltrating Liyue now? Zhongli smiled silently and waited for Xiaoman to continue speaking. I think that Dardaria is the executor of the fools of the land of winter, the young master. Chapter 10. Inviting Immortal Classic Ceremony. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Zhongli smiled and looked at Xiaoman, saying, you're right. He is indeed the fool's executor, young master. Then hurry up and notify Lord Ningguang to arrest him. Arrest? What about the charges? Xiaoman said seriously, Mr. Zhongli, he is the executor of the fools of the winter country. They just snatched the heart of God from Mon before. Zhongli still said calmly, that's not a reason to arrest the young master. Xiaoman anxiously said, but sooner or later they will come and take your divine heart. Xiaoman finally realized that he had made a mistake at this point. Slowly lowering his head, he dared not look at Zhongli. Zhongli smiled and whispered, "Xiaoman, actually you already know my identity, right?" "Mr. Zhongli, how do you know?" Zhongli chuckled softly and said, "As for when I found out, probably from the day you could run around in Liyue port, I noticed that your gaze at me was always strange." "So, you already knew." Zhongli lightly stroked Xiaoman's head and said, "Before, it was someone else who helped you keep your secret. Now it's your turn to help me keep my secret." Xiaoman chuckled foolishly and said, "No problem, I will definitely help Mr. Zhongli keep this secret." "Very good, the contract has been made, and those who break their promise will be punished by eating rocks. Mr. Zhongli, there's no need to be so serious. Xiaoman, I have my own discretion regarding the matter of the young master. Don't worry, as for the traveler from Mond, I will meet her once the time comes." Xiaoman asked cautiously, "Emperor, is something going to happen with this invitation to the Immortal Classic ceremony?" Zhongli smiled and said, "Let's take it as a reward for helping you keep my secret. Indeed, this invitation to the Immortal Classic ceremony will be different from before." Xiaoman waited quietly for Zhongli's next message, but at this moment, Zhongli was just silently watching Xiaoman. "Is that all? As soon as the time comes, it will be decided. Don't worry, go ahead and get busy with your business now." Then Zhongli turned around and left. Xiaoman realized the seriousness of this invitation to the Immortal Classic ceremony, but with Zhongli's affirmation, this time is different from before. So, what is the significance of safety at this moment? In the blink of an eye, on the day of inviting the Immortal ceremony, many people from Liyue and other countries gathered on the square. The scene was extremely grand. The celestial starlight slowly walked from a distance, with a graceful demeanor and a solemn and dignified demeanor. Ningguang walked to the center of the square, in front of the huge incense burner. The maids on both sides retreated, and she saw Ningguang gently lifting her hands. In an instant, several rock element crystals appeared around her, sparkling and extremely brilliant. I saw that the speed of the elemental crystals accelerated, and under the control of condensed light, they all revolved around the incense burner. After a moment, all the elemental crystals converged into the incense burner, emitting tremendous energy. In the next moment, a golden energy beam shot straight into the sky, forming a vortex that converged into the incense burner. Everyone opened their eyes wide and looked at the stunning scene before them, not daring to relax at all. As the sky gradually dimmed, Ningguang's face changed color. Suddenly, a tarnished dragon fell straight from the sky, smashing all the tables where incense burners and offerings were placed. Everyone present was amazed at such a strange scene. Ningguang leaned forward and carefully observed the dragon's state, as if everything around him had suddenly calmed down, waiting for Ningguang's next instructions. After a moment, Ningguang stood up, turned around, and loudly said, "The emperor has been killed. Block the entire scene." For a moment, the Qianyan army received orders and all appeared to blockade the scene. At this moment, Xiaoman just looked at everything calmly. After all, he had already anticipated what would happen after receiving the information from Zhongli. Xiaoman muttered in a low voice, "Emperor, you're having a lot of fun. This is too scary. What exactly does Emperor want to do? Xiaoman, what are you doing here? Why don't you go over and help?" Xiaoman saw Gan Yu approaching and quickly stood up. "Master, do you also believe that the Emperor was killed?" I saw Gan Yu slowly shaking his head without giving a clear answer. At this moment, the square suddenly became chaotic, and Xiaoman quickly stepped forward to check. It turned out that Ying and Pai Meng were being chased by the Qianyan army. Xiaoman doesn't know what exactly happened, hurry up and check. While Ying and Pai Meng were being surrounded by the Qianyan army, suddenly two arrow feathers shot towards the Qianyan army. Xiaoman saw this and ran away, waving his big hand to shoot down the arrow feathers that had been shot. Xiaoman saw clearly that the person who came was the young master. During the chaos, the young master fled the scene with Ying and Pai Meng. Xiaoman saw the young master's distant figure, leaped forward, took out his bow and arrow, turned around and condensed the water element arrow feathers, aimed at the young master without any hesitation. Pai Meng saw Xiaoman pulling his bow and shooting arrows in his direction, and nervously said, "Why did Xiaoman attack us? Did he misunderstand?" The water element arrow shot by Xiaoman suddenly changed direction and fell towards the ground. Seeing this, the young master sneered and ignored it. However, to his surprise, the water element arrow feather exploded after hitting the ground, and all the split water element arrows were aimed at the young master. At this moment, Ying realized that the target of Xiaoman's attack had always been the young master. "Young master, I didn't expect this situation to happen. In a moment of panic, I was still hit by Xiaoman's attack. Although it was not very powerful, it did indicate Xiaoman's attitude at the moment." "I've learned," the young master said in a low voice. Everyone present did indeed see Xiaoman's current strength in such an occasion. Ningguang said with satisfaction, "My child has grown up." Xiaoman did not pursue the young master again, but returned to the scene to help Gan Yu handle the next affairs. "Sorry, Lord Ningguang, I was impulsive just now." "It doesn't matter, Xiaoman, is that the execution officer of the foolish people in the Winter Kingdom?" "Not bad, the last seat of the fool's executive officer, young master, let's deal with the current situation first." Subsequently, Xiaoman, along with Liyue Qixing and Qianyan Jun, took control of the scene. Everyone returned to the Chuanyu Pavilion. Xiaoman rarely comes to Chuanyu Pavilion, after all, it's not a big deal and he wouldn't come here for meetings. Ningguang first asked, "Xiaoman, what do you think of this matter?" Neither Yu Hengxing Keqing nor Gan Yu, who were present, could have imagined that the first person to be asked was Xiaoman. This shows that from this moment on, Ningguang's expectations for Xiaoman have become less than usual. Without hesitation for a moment, Xiaoman said, "I don't think the emperor was killed. What we see may just be a facade." "Why do you say that?" "It's just a feeling. That's the Rock King Emperor, Morex. He was one of the only two surviving deities from the demon god war to this day, and one of them even had his god's heart taken away by someone. I firmly believe that the emperor would not be killed for such an unfounded reason, there must be other reasons."